Thine.
Thine.
The Anglican version of the Lord's Prayer ends with the line, "For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen." The title of the poem is Drink to Me Only with Thine Eyes.
Thing.
Thing.
People say things they don't mean when they're angry.
It was a horrible thing to happen. It was a horrible thing to happen.
I plan to do all the things I've been meaning to do for ages.
The first thing to do is give them food and shelter.
That's a terrible thing to say.
I kept wondering if I was doing the right thing.
A priest has to arrange funerals, marriages, that sort of thing.
Getting more American ideas into British business would be a good thing.
I did no such thing, he protested.
I know a thing or two about dogs. In a democracy, it is no bad thing to be able to compromise.
What's that red thing?
I'll just switch this thing off. There was a round metal thing on the path. The shed is where we keep our tools and things.
Jim began to unpack his things. I want to sell some of my things, but they aren't worth much. I left my swimming things at home. The shed where he kept his gardening things.
By the end of 1942, things were starting to change.
Things could be worse.
As things turned out, we didn't have much time.
How are things with you, Sarah?
She would get angry quickly, which made things difficult for me.
We can't change the way things are.
I couldn't find a thing that I wanted to buy.
He took his glasses off and couldn't see a thing. Don't worry about a thing.
There's no such thing as ghosts.
The baby is a nice little thing when he's not screaming.
She was terribly upset, poor thing.
The thing about teaching is that it takes more time to prepare than most people realise.
The funny thing is, I really enjoyed it, even though I hadn't expected to.
It's a good thing you saw her before she saw you.
It sounds like a good idea. Why don't you invest? Well, the thing is, I can't afford to. The thing is that you can't always judge your own work.
The last thing I want is to upset him.
The last thing I should have done was let her move into my house. The last thing I should have done was let her move into my house.
She likes a hot bath last thing at night.
Jean liked to go for a swim first thing in the morning.
The substance is used in the manufacture of cosmetics and drugs, among other things. The substance is used in the manufacture of cosmetics and drugs, among other things. The substance is used in the manufacture of cosmetics and drugs, among other things.
Well, for one thing, it's too big.
He's not that wonderful. He's bad-tempered, for one thing.
Before AIDS, many healthcare experts believed that large-scale infectious diseases were a thing of the past. Before AIDS, many healthcare experts believed that large-scale infectious diseases were a thing of the past.
It's a good thing we brought some food with us.
It wasn't really the driver's fault. It was just one of those things. The thing about talk shows is that you never know how they will turn out.
All things being equal, smaller animals need smaller brains.
A holiday is probably just the thing for you. She gave up a promising career as a stockbroker to become a weaver of all things.
I just want to live my own life and do my own thing.
Computer games aren't just a guy thing.
All things considered, we had surprisingly few injuries.
In order to get votes, he tries to be all things to all men.
Directors who take dividends instead of salary may think they are onto a good thing, but could have problems on retirement. Directors who take dividends instead of salary may think they are onto a good thing, but could have problems on retirement.
You can apologise without making a big thing out of it.
It is not the done thing for teachers to hit children.
It's one thing being able to run fast, but quite another to win a marathon.
I've been so busy these last few days, what with one thing and another. She's always had a thing about Peter.
One thing led to another, and before I knew it, I had invited her family to stay. When Amelia bought a new car, it had to be the latest thing.
Jody tried the college thing, but finally dropped out.
There's only one thing for it. We'll have to call the police.
Thingamajig.
Thingamajig.
What do you call that thingamajig? You know, the circle with the line through it.
Is Thingy going?
Think.
Think.
I think that you're being unfair.
I thought I heard something.
He didn't think anyone would believe him. Do you think I should call him?
For some reason, I keep thinking it's Friday today.
The recession lasted longer than anyone thought it would.
Am I right in thinking that you have a brother?
I can't help thinking that he's made a mistake.
Do you honestly think I would do something so stupid?
What do you think of your new school?
I thought it best to call first. I thought it appropriate to invite her to speak at the meeting.
We must start thinking in terms of reducing costs.
Fraud is thought to be costing software companies millions of dollars a year. She thought very carefully before answering.
Wait a minute, I'm thinking.
She lay awake thinking about the money.
I can't think what else we could have done.
She thought very hard before deciding to leave her job.
Holmes sat thinking deeply.
I dread to think how much this call is going to cost.
How strange, he thought.
I don't care, she thought to herself.
It was impossible to know what he was thinking.
I was just thinking what a lovely time we had yesterday.
He was trying to think where he'd seen her before.
I couldn't think where I'd left my keys.
Peter had always thought of Kate as someone to be avoided.
I want you to think of this as your home.
I've always thought of myself as a sensible person.
My parents never thought me capable of doing a degree.
We have good reason to think kindly of a school that has provided all our children with an excellent education.
I had never thought about becoming an actor.
We did think about moving to Tokyo.
Don't even think about calling him.
A visible alarm makes burglars think twice.
A previous divorce can make you think twice about getting married again.
I'd think twice before taking out such a large loan.
If you think car crime can't happen to you, think again.
Universities may be forced to think again about the courses they provide.
Mary is in the garden, I think.
I don't think Ray will mind.
Do you understand what I mean? Yes, I think so. Haven't we met before?
I thought he was honest, but I was wrong.
I think I'll go to bed early tonight.
I thought we'd go swimming tomorrow.
I thought we could meet for lunch. We'll need about 10 bottles of wine, I should think.
I would have thought it would be better to wait a while.
You would have thought the school would do more to help a child like Craig.
Do you think you could help me move these boxes? Do you think I need to bring a jacket?
Who do you think will win? Where do you think you're going?
This could be a coincidence, but I think not.
Just think, we could be millionaires.
It would be lovely, but think of the expense.
Just think what could have happened.
Were there any letters for me? Yes, there were, come to think of it. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I wasn't thinking. To think we lived next door to him and never knew what he was doing. To think we lived next door to him and never knew what he was doing.
If you think I'm going to wait for you, you've got another think coming.
Who would have thought she'd end up dancing for a living?
Andy failed his driving test. I thought as much when I saw his face.
Why isn't it working? I should have thought that was obvious.
He started to say something, then thought better of it.
He thinks nothing of staying up all night in casinos.
I had a pain in my back, but thought nothing of it at the time.
I didn't think to question the treatment I was given. I didn't think to question the treatment I was given.
I never thought to ask him for his address. Parents have to teach their children to think for themselves.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking aloud.
I'm so nervous I can't think straight. I'm so nervous I can't think straight. How can I think straight with you talking all the time? I didn't think much of his new girlfriend. The children think the world of her.
Your boss must think highly of you if she gives you so much responsibility.
The children think the world of her.
Please don't think badly of me.
Do you think less of me for agreeing to do it?
He's determined to think the worst of me. He's determined to think the worst of me.
The company is thinking big.
You have to think positive if you're going to be successful in this game.
In this job, you need to be able to think on your feet.
They had thought to deceive me.
Anyone would think he owns the place, the way he talks.
Thinking back, it amazes me how we survived on so little sleep.
He thought back to the day he'd first met Sophie.
They're still trying to think of a name for the baby.
Can you think of any other way to do it?
I can't think of the name of the hotel we stayed in.
It was very good of you to think of me.
He's always thinking of other people.
She's a spoiled child who thinks only of herself.
Take care. I'll be thinking of you.
He went for a walk to think things out.
The proposal needs to be carefully thought out.
She had thought out what she was going to say.
I've been thinking over your suggestion.
Why don't you think it over and give me a call in a couple of days?
I want some more time to think things over.
The policy has not been thought through properly.
It's my fault. I didn't think it through.
I need time to think things through.
People need time to think through what the changes will mean for them.
She was trying to think up an excuse. Did you think that up yourself?
Who thinks up names for new products?
I'll have a think and let you know.
Thinkable.
Thinkable.
At that time, it would not have been thinkable to openly criticize the government.
Thinker.
Thinker.
Great thinkers such as Kant and Schopenhauer.
Thinking.
Thinking. The administration's thinking changed as the war progressed.
Well, to my way of thinking, they should have done that years ago. He laughed and accused me of wishful thinking. He laughed and accused me of wishful thinking.
The rich country's current thinking on aid. The thinking behind the company's new public relations campaign.
If it weren't for Jeff's quick thinking, Tilly could have been badly hurt.
I really needed to do some thinking.
The thinking man's pop band.
Think tank.
Think tank.
A leading member of a Tory think tank.
Thinly.
Thinly.
Thinly sliced bread.
Sow the radish seeds thinly.
The mountain regions are more thinly populated than the lowlands.
He looked at Frank's new car with thinly veiled envy.
Thinner.
Thinner.
Thinning.
Thinning.
Thin-skinned.
Thin-skinned.
Third.
Third.
In the 3rd century.
Her 3rd birthday. I'm planning to leave on the 3rd. Divide it into thirds.
A third of these jobs are held by women.
2/3 of the profits are given to charities.
3rd class.
3rd class.
We travelled 3rd class.
3rd degree.
3rd degree.
3rd degree.
3rd degree.
I got home after midnight and Dad gave me the 3rd degree.
3rd party.
3rd party.
Does third-party insurance cover this type of damage?
3rd person.
3rd person.
3rd rate.
3rd rate.
A 3rd-rate hotel.
3rd sector.
3rd sector.
3rd world.
3rd world.
3rd world economies.
Thirst.
Thirst.
Ice water is the only thing that really quenches my thirst.
We had worked up a thirst, and so we decided to stop for a beer.
Maggie woke up with a raging thirst.
The thirst for knowledge in Renaissance Italy.
Young men thirsting for adventure.
Thirst.
Thirsty. Thirsty.
Can I have a glass of water? I'm really thirsty.
He'd been working in the garden and was very hot and thirsty.
All this digging is thirsty work.
A generation thirsty for change.
13.
13.
They've only sold 13 tickets so far.
When it happened, I was 13.
It's Roberto's 13th birthday. The 13th century.
30.
30.
In the 30s, air travel really began to take off.
The family sold the house in the early 30s.
She must be in her early 30s by now.
A hot day, with temperatures in the low 30s.
Her 30th birthday.
30-something.
30-something.
A new magazine aimed at 30-somethings.
This.
This.
We must make sure this doesn't happen again.
Is there any way of solving these problems?
If young Daly continues to improve at this rate, he'll soon be in the A-team.
This will be discussed in the next chapter.
This boyfriend of yours, how old is he?
There will be another meeting later this week.
This has been the worst year of my life.
I thought he would have been back before this.
We'll be seeing Malcolm this Friday.
I'm sorry I was late this morning.
Everyone seems to be in a hurry these days.
I want to see you in my office this minute.
I hate this cold, damp weather.
Things have never been as bad as this before.
These are your gloves, aren't they?
You have to park on this side of the road.
I can't bear the atmosphere in this house much longer. Now, listen to this. Wait till you hear this joke.
This is going to surprise you.
I met this really weird guy last night. Suddenly there was this tremendous bang.
Sam, this is my sister, Liz. Can I speak to Joan, please? What have you two been gossiping about all evening? What's this? Crying again?
What's all this about a ghost?
This is it, boys, the moment we've been waiting for. This is it, boys, the moment we've been waiting for.
The table's about this high and this wide.
You need to cut about this much off the end of the pipe.
I hadn't realised that things had got this bad.
I've never had this much money before.
Thistle. Thistle. Thistledown.
Thistledown.
Thither. Thither. Though.
Though.
Thong. Thong. Thorax. Thorax. Thorn. Thorn.
A long, low hedge of thorns. He's been a thorn in the side of the party leadership for years. He's been a thorn in the side of the party leadership for years.
Thorny. Thorny.
The thorny question of immigration policy.
Thorough. Thorough. The doctor gave him a thorough checkup.
A thorough and detailed biography.
The police investigation was very thorough.
Thorough notes of the meeting.
The screening of applicants must be thorough.
Thoroughbred. Thoroughbred.
A thoroughbred stallion.
Football thoroughbred Mick Jones.
Thoroughfare. Thoroughfare.
The motel was off the main thoroughfare.
Thoroughgoing. Thoroughgoing.
A thoroughgoing analysis of the data.
The program has been a thoroughgoing success.
Thoroughly.
Thoroughly.
She sat feeling thoroughly miserable.
Thoroughly cooked meat.
The room had been thoroughly cleaned.
Those.
Those.
Thou. Thou.
They paid about 69 thou for it.
Thou.
Though.
Though.
Though she's almost 40, she still plans to compete. Pascal went ahead with the experiment, even though he knew it was dangerous.
The rooms, though small, were pleasant and airy.
Strange though it may seem, I like housework.
I thought he'd been drinking, though I wasn't completely sure.
The offenders were dealt with firmly, though fairly.
It looks as though everyone else has gone home.
She stared at me as though I were a complete stranger.
2 heart attacks in a year. It hasn't stopped him smoking, though.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Isn't it rather risky, though?
Thought. Thought.
It's an interesting thought. The thought that I might not have a job next year is a bit troubling.
What are your thoughts, Michael?
Any thoughts on how we should spend the money?
With more thought and care, this would have been a first-class essay. With more thought and care, this would have been a first-class essay.
I've been giving your proposal a lot of thought.
Have you given any more thought to going back to school?
Derek was staring out of the window, lost in thought. Piaget's research focused on children's thought processes.
He went back into the burning building with no thought for his own safety.
Have you no thought for anyone but yourself?
You are always in my thoughts.
I had no thought of gaining any personal advantage.
Lucy gave up all thought of finishing the essay that day.
Kant's ideas had a strong influence on political thought.
Spare a thought for those who don't have enough to eat. It was just a thought, Duncan. I didn't mean any offence. It was just a thought, Duncan. I didn't mean any offence.
Why don't you ask Walter? That's a thought. I'll phone him right away. Thoughtless.
Thoughtless.
A selfish and thoughtless man.
It was thoughtless of her not to tell you where she was going.
Thought out. Thought out.
A carefully thought-out speech.
The thought police. Thought police.